Okay, good morning, everyone. This is our first Howard County delegation meeting of the 2021 session. And we are hopefully streaming on YouTube. Just getting a quick refresh to see that, yes, we are in fact live. Good, thank you. So welcome, everyone. This is our first virtual meeting, so things will be a little bit different for our delegation this year. And aside from the technological differences, we also have different membership this year. And so wanted to start off the meeting by not only recognizing and welcoming Delegate Reed Novotny, but also you may notice we are joined by a former delegate and asked former delegate Warren Miller to join us just so we could have an opportunity to publicly thank him for his service and wish him well in his retirement, which we can all see is going quite well as he is sitting on a beach with a palm tree swaying in the breeze. So I believe Senator Lamb, you want to read a citation?
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. Good morning to the members of the delegation. Good to see Delegate Miller again. And we just wanted to extend a citation to you. We wish we could do this in person, obviously, and we will get this to you as well. And wanted to just recognize your many years of service to the Howard County delegation, to the residents in District 9A for all of your work. This is tireless work. This is the people's work. And so, you know, we certainly want to extend our appreciation to all of you. We know how hard you've worked over many years to represent your constituents as well. So let me read this citation to Delegate Miller. So be it hereby known to all that sincerest congratulations are offered to Warren E. Miller in recognition of 17 years of dedicated public service to the citizens of Carroll and Howard counties as a Maryland State Delegate, presented on this 20th day of January 2021 by myself, the Senate Delegation Chair, as well as Delegate Jessica Feldmark, the House Delegation Chair, on behalf of all of us here listed as part of the Howard County delegation. So again, our sincere appreciation to you for all that you've done as well. I don't know if you, Delegate Feldmark, if we want to let Delegate Miller make any closing remarks.
Last chance, yes.
So I just want to thank all of you. It's been a pleasure serving with everyone there. And when I started, it was a very different delegation. It changed over the years. Had some very good friendships there with people like Jimmy Malone and Liz Bobo and many an old-time delegate and senator. So I miss serving with all of them, but I've enjoyed serving with you guys over the years since you've been there. And I'm happy to retire at this point. I know I'm leaving my seat in good hands. Reed is a great replacement. I couldn't have asked for better. And hopefully he will continue in my shoes and saying no. So with that, thank you all for the citations and enjoy your meeting.
All right, thank you. And thank you. It is our alcoholic beverage bill day, so I know you may be tempted to stay, and you're welcome to if you want, but I know you have bigger and better things to get back to, but we really appreciate you making the time to join us today, and thank you for all you've done.
Thank you all.
Okay. So moving along, I very briefly recognized Delegate Novotny, who is our newest delegation member. Since we have not been together in person, I did want to give him just a brief moment to say hello and introduce himself. Delegate Novotny.
Thank you, Jessica. I obviously want to thank Delegate Miller for all his mentorship over the last couple of months and actually a couple of years as we've gotten to know each other. I'm just looking forward to meeting everyone in person if I haven't met you yet, and getting to know each of you. And if there's anything I can do to help, I am here. And I appreciate all the time this morning, and I will vote no almost as much as Warren. I don't know if we can make that. So he says thank you. So now looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. And we do have one other introduction to make. Our new delegation administrator, Abby Rubling, who you've met by email already, but just wanted to give her a chance to say hello.
Hi, I just look forward to working with all of you.
All right, and this is, Abby is just starting day 3 on the job, so please be a little patient as we all adjust to this virtual format for the first time, and Abby being brand new to the position. So I did send out to members a few days.
You also want to introduce Dara Moriarty.
Oh,
from Council,
yes.
Delegation Council.
Happy to reintroduce Dara, who is back with us this year. Want to make sure you all remember that he is your point person for any amendments needed or other questions as we work through the legislative process in the delegation. So I did send out to members a few days ago a rather lengthy sort of housekeeping email on adjusting to our virtual meetings and how we'll be working this session. So I wanted to take a moment to kind of review some of the key points and just see if there were any questions. We will be sticking with our regular Wednesday morning schedule. We'll stick with a 9 a.m. start time for our delegation meetings. And I'm hoping that today's is not this long, but we should be prepared for them to last up to 2 hours potentially on your schedule. We do have the chat feature enabled for members. I do want to explain that chat is a bit of a misnomer for how we'll be using it. Okay, we're keeping the chat open so that you can use it to indicate if you want to speak, right? If you wish to be recognized by the chair to ask a question or to share some comments in discussing legislation. So we're going to use the chat feature to keep a queue of who's waiting to be recognized. For that to work smoothly, I'm going to ask you to keep actual chatter and chit chat out of the chat so that we can move on. The Zoom meeting itself is for members only and invited guests. We will be, any member can invite guests who they want to ask questions of on particular legislation. We will not be having guests presenting, but they'll be here to answer questions that may come up in discussion. Each meeting, following each meeting, we will be preparing the agenda for the next meeting. The agenda will hopefully be out by Thursday, no later than Friday for the following week. And at that point, you should review the agenda and identify any guests you want to invite. Any requests to invite guests to be part of the Zoom meeting should be to Abby by noon on the Monday before the meeting, so that she has time to get them the Zoom link and squared away. Public viewing is via YouTube through the MGA website. We are streaming live, and folks will be able to watch that. They will not be, the public will not be part of the Zoom meeting itself, just watching this live stream. I mentioned the agendas we'll try to have out by the Thursday before, definitely by the Friday before. You will notice the agendas are a little bit different this year. Part of our adjustment to going virtual, we've included hyperlinks for each bill, each item on the agenda. Hopefully that will make it easier for you all to follow along, and hopefully will make it easier for members of the public to follow along as well. Meeting materials, since we don't have our standard blue binders to pass out in the room, all of the meeting materials will be emailed to you in advance and are also available in the Google Drive folder that you have access to. And if you are having any trouble with that, please reach out to Abby and she can work with you or your staff to get squared away. Amendment requests should be made directly of Dara, so he can work with you on drafting that. Again, we won't be able to pass out amendments during the meeting. So if we can, please get them to us in advance. By noon the day before the meeting would really be helpful from Abby's perspective in terms of getting everything distributed and ready and not having the last minute rush. Obviously, last minute rush is kind of a theme in the General Assembly. So we know there are going to be times when that comes up anyway. And Dara will, when we are discussing amendments, Dara will pull the amendment up and share his screen. So in addition to hopefully having an emailed copy in advance, we'll be able to follow along on the screen, and that way the public will be able to see the amendments as well. Any questions so far? Okay. Courtney, Delegate Watson.
Good morning. And Jessica, is the agenda in the Google Drive file, or is it just the bills that are there?
It is just the bill files.
Okay, it'd
The
be
agenda
great
was emailed out, and it's also on the website.
in the future if we could put the agenda in the Drive too. Then everything's in one place. That would be great.
Sure, that's a good suggestion. Thank you. Any other questions on our new virtual operations? Okay, so then finally, I do want to remind all of you and announce for the public that we will be having our next public hearing on Tuesday, February 16th. That will be our delegation hearing on statewide issues. In addition to hearing statewide issues, we will also hear any late filed local items, local bills or legislative bond initiatives. At this point, I'm only aware of one legislative bond initiative that came in after the public hearing. Members, for your purposes, if there is anything else that you are considering filing late, it would be very helpful if you could let Senator Lamb or myself know as soon as possible. Definitely no later than February 1st so that we can get it on the agenda for that February 16th public hearing. Anything that comes up after that agenda is set, I can tell you my personal inclination is going to be not to consider it this year. So please, if there's anything that you're working on or thinking about that's going to be a late addition, please let us know as soon as possible. Senator Lamb, anything you want to add to that?
No, just to echo your comments, just bear with us because we're all kind of working through this virtual format, and certainly open to your feedback. Appreciate the one from Delegate Watson earlier, and we're continuing to work with Abby as well. She just started last week, so this is quite the start to this. But she's not new to Annapolis, so she at least has some familiarity with the schedule and the calendars and such. So that's all that I had to add. I think I'm happy to move forward with the agenda.
Okay, and I think the next section you're going to be chairing us for, so thank you.
Sure. So next on the agenda, we have the alcoholic beverage bills. And I think we do have representatives from the county. If there are any questions that members can ask the county representatives about, we have Maureen Evans Arthur representing the county executive, Calvin Ball, and we also, I believe, have councilperson David Youngman, who's the current chair of the county liquor board. And so first on the agenda for the alcoholic beverage bills is Howard County 3-21. This is alcoholic beverages inspectors. It was filed on behalf of the council. And this is a bill that should not be unfamiliar to you. This was introduced last session as well. It was one of the casualties of our shortened session, so it did not make its way through the process. I don't think it was particularly controversial, but the bill really has provisions in place to help strengthen the ability of inspectors, the county inspectors, to conduct inspections at alcoholic establishments. And you should have a copy of that in the Google Drive, the actual bill itself. Any questions or discussion on this? And I saw that Delegate Watson had written something in the chat. Is that for a question or a comment? No? Okay. And then I saw Delegate Ebersol his hand up. So go ahead.
And I did the chat thing real fast too. Sorry, last minute. I just want to know, did we actually act on this bill last year and pass it through delegation, or did we not act on it?
Does anyone have a recollection of that?
It did pass delegation.
Yeah, I think we did pass that.
Just for the record, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Senator
I
Lamb,
see Delegate Novotny, blue handed
All
up. So there
Hey,
we go.
thank you.
Go ahead.
So I'm just going to apologize in advance. I'll probably have a couple of easy new guy questions, but maybe the county representatives can describe what the problem is, just in a few words, that they're trying to address for this legislation.
Certainly.
Yes,
Yeah, Councilperson
Yeah.
Youngman, go ahead.
It's my understanding, and this predates me, that the way it stands now is we have to have a sworn officer in doing liquor, spot liquor inspections, which is not only expensive, but it limits the number of bodies that we can put on the street to do the inspection. So it's a request that I believe originated within the police department and came down through Mark Baxter, who's our liquor inspector. And this might even be the third year that we've been trying to get it done. Jessica, is that your recollection as well?
Yes, I think the concern is just use of limited resources and sworn officers, and that much of the work that needs to be done does not require, an actual police officer. So it's a matter of efficiency from the county's perspective.
I have the people that do the real work at the liquor board, Robin and Ann Nicholson and Robin Regner on the phone. Do either of you guys want to jump in on that, or have we set that up correctly?
Right now, we only have one liquor inspector and he can't cover all the establishments. So it'd be better to have more people involved.
Right. And by making them not sworn, then they don't need to be full-fledged police officers that are obviously more expensive and more, we don't want to take them away from other higher level assignments. So I think we all understand it.
Perfect. Thank you, David.
I understand.
Do other counties in Maryland do it somewhat similar to this? Or are we leading the way in this efficiency, or don't know?
That I really do not know. Again, because this bill predated me. I've never looked into that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So Delegate Novotny, all the alcohol bill, the alcohol statutes are really different and vary quite a bit across the board from county to county. And so there's a lot of variation there. And then just for your background, the county's authority is derived from the state's authority. And so for the things that the county can't do, they need to come back to the state to ask for authorization to do. And so this is one of those areas where they've reached their ability to legislate on. And so that's why they're coming back to the delegation for this request.
Yeah. Copy. I appreciate that. And trust me, I'll ask some more stupid questions just getting new to it. But yeah, I'm tracking how the state law and county law interact. But I appreciate you answering those questions.
Well, Reed, it must not have been a stupid question if 15 of us didn't know the answer. So,
all right. Well, I'll try not to stump anyone else.
If there's anything like that, as you guys are going through this, that our staff can be helpful with, in researching, we can ask one of the LAs to research. I don't know how you guys go about doing that, but we could always find out with at least the counties, the big 8 around us, who does it this way and who doesn't.
Yeah, my understanding is that we are in the minority when it comes to counties like this, and this ability would allow us to hire many more lay inspectors in place of kind of the sworn officers that we would ordinarily have. If we have, questions that, do require other comparison or research, that's where Dara can also help us too, and reach out to some of his colleagues in DLS to, gather some further information to bring forward to the delegation. I think I saw Delegate Terrazzo, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I don't, thank you. Appreciate it. Delegate Novotny, I just want to say, I don't think those were stupid questions at all. And I was on the liquor board for 12 years. So, so can we get somebody from DLS to tell us if there's other counties that do it this way? Because I am curious about that myself. I see that we have, I think Dara wants to answer that. And I guess the other question would be, do we have something from the police department about this being an issue? Because I'd hate for us to have a bill that may be stale if it's not still an issue. I hear Ms. Regner saying that, and I appreciate that, but is there a need for more inspections? Like, are there a certain number of, and maybe Ms. Regner can answer this. And hi, Ms. Regner, it's really good to hear from you. Are there a certain number of establishments that are supposed to be inspected per year and we're not able to get to them? Or I just want to make sure that we're not solving a problem that doesn't need to be solved right now this way. So, but I think Mr. Moriarty had his hand up to answer that.
Yeah, sorry, I can't seem to find the virtual hand up, so I just raised mine and hope it worked. Just from, I will check with other people in the department. From what I've researched myself, I have only found so far examples in other counties of the Board of License Commissioners appointing inspectors. And there are a few examples of that. I am yet to see anything about the county police department employing inspectors. That's not to say that it's not there, but just that from what I have found, it appears to be mostly Board of License Commissioners in each county appointing an inspector.
And I appreciate that. I was a little concerned about this last year and the year before. So I want to make sure that we're getting the inspections done we need, but it does concern me. And I also, if Mr. Youngman knows whether there's certain training for these folks that will be required, or that would be my questions.
Yeah, Councilperson Youngman, can you address that? I see you have your hand up to that question.
Yeah, the genius chair of the liquor board, the only person I didn't get to get on the call was Mark Baxter, who is our liquor inspector, who probably could have answered all these questions. Since this is all originating from the police department, we can, if any of you or all of you together want to shoot us a list of what you want to hear from the police department, we'll work with Maureen to get that. I believe that's where the request originated from. They should be able to provide, you know, the data for how many inspections they think they should be doing versus how many they are doing, et cetera.
It looks like from a prior hearing,
And last year.
testimony that only 3 counties require police to actually do this. But we can certainly try to find more information about that. I know Delegate Watson had a question.
I just have a couple of comments. Baltimore County only does not use police to do their inspections. This was requested by the police department, by our police department. We did pass it last year. There is a significant need to do this based on the testimony that we heard last year. And I'm hesitant to get bogged down in rehashing this particular bill because it's fairly simple. I am on the Economic Matters Committee, and yes, Mr. Novotny, Delegate Novotny, welcome. And I will tell you that the alcohol laws across the state and within the individual jurisdictions are probably one of the most complicated things we deal with. But in this case, this is a very simple bill. I would urge our delegation to go ahead and approve this today. I mean, do we really need to send out and have staff do all sorts of work that we've already done when they're trying to deal with other things like within the pandemic? So I just think this is pretty simple. And in terms of efficiency, we should move it forward.
I think Maureen, you had your hand raised too.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I apologize. I couldn't find the raise hand function in the chat. So I will say, and I apologize that we didn't have the police department here. Yeah, it was something that I did not think about, but I will say I have testimony from last session that was put forth by both Tammy Bula and then Captain Christopher Williams. And just a couple of pieces from his testimony. We are actually only one of 3 counties to still have this requirement. I think he said it was Charles County and St. Mary's are the only others that require sworn officers. He also mentions the amount of times they how many different establishments that they are required to inspect. There are 289 different ones. And so the, of course, goal is just to adjust the law to allow for civil trained inspectors. So I am happy to at least forward you, I can forward you the past testimony, but I can definitely forward you updated testimony and be able to answer any additional questions. But yes, echoing Delegate Watson's sentiments, this bill did pass delegation last year.
I think Chairperson Feldmark had a comment as well.
Yes, thank you. And I just wanted to, and I think actually Maureen sort of addressed this in the inverse, but in the question of other counties, if we just look at the text of the bill, you can see that Howard County is being added to a list. So we are joining the company of Anne Arundel County, Frederick County, Harford County, Kent County, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and Talbot County. So I just wanted to bring that point forward because it was one of the questions earlier. And the bill does address training, which is under the purview of the police department, and the ultimate hiring decisions and qualification decisions still remain with the chief of police. So I think in terms of the questions of the police preferences here, it also does not exclude sworn officers from continuing to carry out any of these duties. It's simply giving the police the ability to include civilian employees as inspectors.
Thank you for that. So I hear a desire to move forward with this legislation.
I've got my hand up. My hands up.
Oh, sorry. Delegate
Okay.
Hill. There you go.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we move the question to approve this bill.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, if we can have Abby, do we need to call the roll for this? This seems like a really inefficient process, but
I
Phil,
think
how do you
for,
want to do?
for
We can-
Abby's
we can
sake
call
and
the roll.
record keeping, we should.
Yeah, okay. All right, Abby, do you want to call the roll?
Sure.
I see Senator Gazzoni also joined us too. He had a budget meeting that he had to be at earlier, but glad that he's here now.
All
of.
right. So Senator Lamb,
Yes,
Senator Gazone,
I apologize. What's the bill? I
It's
just walked in.
Howard County 3-21, the first one, alcoholic beverage inspectors.
the one we passed last year.
The one you voted for last
Yes.
year.
Senator Hester,
Yes.
Delegate Feldmark,
Yes.
Delegate Atterbury,
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol,
Yes.
Delegate Hill,
Yes.
Delegate Kittleman,
Yes.
Delegate Novotny,
Yes.
Delegate Pendergrass,
I apologize. I should have mentioned earlier, I did hear from Delegate Pendergrass before the meeting. She unfortunately had to deal with some HGO matters this morning, so she's unable to be with us.
Delegate Terrasa,
I just want to say that I appreciate all the answers given and I'm comfortable with this now. Yes.
and Delegate Watson.
Yes.
Okay. Nine yeses from the delegates and 3 yeses from the senators and 1 absent.
Okay, great. Thanks, Abby. So Howard County 3-21 passes. Next, we'll proceed to Howard County 1-21, alcoholic beverages and delivery. This is Delegate Watson's bill. You want to just
Give a brief
briefly summarize the bill? Yeah.
Sure. So this bill would allow Class A licenses, which are liquor stores, the ability to deliver alcoholic beverages within the county. And the reason that I'm putting this forth is because our current law does allow delivery, but only if the customer comes to the premises and places the order. So as things have evolved in the marketplace, we have liquor stores that are using online platforms, and we would like them to continue the ability to deliver, which was granted to them in the governor's pandemic emergency order. I think the key point here is that we do have the support, obviously, of the Howard County Licensed Beverage Association and the Maryland State Licensed Beverage Association. But the rationale for the bill is that this does provide more paths to viability for liquor stores, for small businesses in the pandemic and beyond, and it provides customer convenience. The requirements of age to make sure that the person who's purchasing the alcohol, that is in the bill, and it's handled the same way it's handled at the counter. So there is a form that the local board will provide that will allow the person who delivers the alcohol, which is an employee of the liquor store, to check an ID and have it verified that this is a legal purchase. So this is a legal and lawful way to allow liquor stores to deliver, to increase customer convenience and provide more support for our small businesses.
Okay, great. I guess if we're doing this by proper procedure, we should have a
Approval.
motion. Okay,
Second.
second. All right, now we can open up for discussion. Any other questions, discussion?
Man, I'm raising my hand.
So I see, so the problem is I see 3 blue hands, and I don't know if they were a continuation from the prior bill or from the, for this bill. I see one just dropped, another dropped, and I see Delegate Hill's hand. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As someone who doesn't drink, but apropos of the previous bill, how are our inspections handled in this type of situation? How do we know that the proprietors are indeed making sure that they're not selling to underage folks?
So this provision is under the responsibility of the local liquor board, and they will have to apply to do this and receive the ability to do it from the local liquor board.
My question is, during the pandemic, the issue of inspections hasn't been there, but as we move forward in making this permanent, we'll be able to monitor in-person sales for compliance. Has there been a mechanism created, including in institutions or jurisdictions that pre-pandemic have been allowing for folks to order without coming in? Do we have a mechanism in place, or can we get a mechanism? I see Jack Milani may have an answer for us, Mr. Chairman.
So, yeah, I don't know if Delegate Watson, you wanted to say something. I saw Councilperson Youngman and then Jack.
I would allow them to go forward, but it would be up to the local liquor board. And so go ahead, Mr. Milani and Mr. Youngman.
Councilman Youngman, you want to go next? I saw your hand next, and then Jack.
Sure, thanks. We've tossed this around. The one key in this bill that we appreciate is that an employee needs to make the delivery. This isn't something that a DoorDash or an Uber Eats or something like that can do, because it is incumbent upon the person making the delivery to do the ID check. We've talked about a form and a log, and have even tossed around the possibility of requiring that deliverer to snap a photo of the ID that they checked, so that can become part of the log. But we haven't had any formal discussion as a liquor board on how we're going to do it.
Mr. Milani and then Senator Hester.
Yes, what you'll find in most subdivisions is that the liquor board develops a policy, usually a written form, a log. And again, it's their jurisdiction. If they think there's a problem, it's just like they would set a sting up at a store. They could set a sting up at a house. So licensees are aware of this. Trust me, this has not been problems in the counties that do it because of these oversights. I think as long as the board is in control of it, they'll do what's necessary to make sure it's a lawful transaction.
Senator Hester.
Thank you. And I really appreciate this bill because our small businesses need all the help they can get right now. I guess I'm a bit confused. If this has been going on during the pandemic, what is the current process for validating the IDs?
Mr. Youngman, do you want to answer that? We can't hear you.
You're on mute, Councilman.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to toss to Ann or Robin on that, just because they've been managing it. Guys, I know that the stores are keeping the log. What does the log have to have in it right now?
We have a resolution where it says they have to have a log with the order number, purchaser's name and address, date of purchase, age of recipient, description of method used to verify the recipient is old enough to purchase, and type of identification. So that's what we've been doing.
So if Inspector Baxter were to go inspect that establishment, he could request to review those delivery logs and check to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. But I will confess that I don't know that we're fully really staffed up to have a good handle on it during this temporary period. I personally would propose that we require getting images of these licenses, because a lot of counter units exist now where you can scan the licenses. You know, we're not going to have that technology on the road for a while, but at minimum, we should be able to show that that they at least visually saw a license.
Okay.
My guess is it's been a little loose over the last 9 months, like unfortunately a lot of this stuff.
Okay. So I don't see anyone's virtual or physical hands up. So we do have a motion on the table to move forward with this. And it's been properly seconded. If there are no further comments, we can move to call the roll. Oh, I see I see Senator Hester and Councilman Youngman.
I'm
Go ahead,
sorry,
Senator Hester.
Senator Lamb. I
Go
didn't
ahead.
mean to jump up like that. One thing that popped up for us when we looked at these bills, and we know there's a companion bill for the bars and restaurants. I'm not suggesting that they end up in the same bill, but just as a comment to the delegation, I hope we don't put ourselves in a position where this bill would pass and the one for bars and restaurants wouldn't. And then we've created an uneven playing field, which I think would cause lots of, which I'm trying to think of the right word. I don't know the industry will respond well to that. So, to the extent they're going to stay separate, let's hope that, we move forward similarly on both. So that's all.
Senator Hester, and then I think Mr. Milani will have the last comment.
Okay, so I just want to clarify, because I've heard a couple of things, that the process during the pandemic has been a little loose because we're all doing the best we can. But going forward, if we delegate this authority to the liquor board, the process will improve immensely, and that this bill is critical to leveling the playing field with the other bill for restaurants. I just want to clarify that is accurate. Okay.
As long as I'm chair of the liquor board, we're going to have as tight a processes as we can think up. I'm a big proponent of these processes, but I personally have struggled with the inability to control things like sealed containers, and I think that it has been too loose. I think that while we're trying to expand the marketplace, and we all as consumers have become accustomed to this, we can't forget that liquor is a regulated product and a regulated service. So while I can't offer anything of any detail right now in this session, our liquor board will be doing our best to make sure that it as closely replicates what a transaction at the counter would look like.
Thank you. Mr. Milani, did you have anything additional to add? I see Delegate Hill. I assume this is a new hand that's up, right?
Yes, Senator, thank you. Just two things. Remember the Class A, it is they are the ones that are supposed to be doing the off-premise. So this bill makes a lot of sense for that reason. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they have the ability to deliver prior to the pandemic, but you had an odd quirk where you made them come into the store to transact the business. That's very unusual around the state. I represent all the counties. Majority of the counties that have moved to go to delivery have done something similar to what is in this bill. And I think the key to this bill is you've got to let the board develop the forms, develop the policy, because they know better than anyone. So, I would say if you're going to do something like this, direct the board to come up with policy if you're concerned about it. I think there's enough in the bill currently, but again, trust your board. Your board, I see them all. Your board does a real good job.
Okay, last word from Delegate Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Milani has anticipated my question, which was actually, I guess, directed to the sponsor. Delegate, I think in your initial comments, or at least answer to my initial question, you implied that since we're leaving this in the hands of the liquor board, that we don't really need to be concerned about what their process are. Just trust them, they'll come up with something. My question is, we carry the authority to delegate this to them, which means we have the responsibility of making sure that when when we relegate that authority, that they actually do come up with something, that it's not just a way of monitoring or fining the proprietor because they're not keeping paperwork, but that the paperwork they're being required to keep is actually helpful in ensuring that underage purchases or sales are not going on. So it's not just you didn't keep your paperwork, it's a way of monitoring. So I guess my question is, how, and I know it's good for business, everyone loves it, great, got all that. The question to the sponsor is, if we take the attitude that it's not really our issue, if the liquor board figures out a way to handle it, that's great, it's on them. Have we not abdicated our responsibility and the whole reason why we as a delegation have the authority to do this anyway? Does that make sense?
Thank you for that question, Delegate Hill. I know it comes from a place of concern that we make sure that our community is safe with regard to our liquor laws, and I appreciate that. My comment wasn't that we shouldn't be concerned with it. My comment was that we can trust our liquor board, and part of that comes from having been a liquor board member myself. And I know that our liquor board does a really good job at making sure the laws are enforced and that they're protecting our community while also allowing our businesses to thrive. Our liquor board administrator is fantastic. And it's not a question of not being concerned. It's a question of, I trust their judgment. They are the body that's responsible for this. And I don't think that it benefits us to micromanage them in that sense.
Okay,
Call the
so
question.
we will proceed with the vote. Abby, can you call the roll?
Sure. Senator Lamb,
Yes.
Senator Gazone,
Yes.
Senator Hester, Senator Hester,
Yes.
Delegate Feldmark,
Yes.
Delegate Atterbury,
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol,
Yes.
Delegate Hill,
Yes.
Delegate Kittleman,
Yes.
Delegate Novotny,
Yes.
Delegate Pendergrass, Delegate Tarasa,
Yes.
and Delegate Watson.
Yes.
So that's 8 delegates in favor with 1 absent and 3 senators in favor. So that would pass.
All right, thank you, Abby. Next on the agenda, we have Howard County 4-21. This is alcoholic beverages class B, beer, wine, and liquor license off-premises consumption. This is also Delegate Watson's bill. Do you want to introduce this briefly?
Yes.
Remind the delegation. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So this bill, Howard County 4-21, it extends the right provided by Governor Hogan during the pandemic to restaurants to provide off-premises alcohol sales in Howard County. It mandates that the customer must purchase prepared food, and that you can't just order some snacks, some Cheez-Its in a bag and buy alcohol from a restaurant. They have to be able to provide you with prepared food. And then the idea is that if you go pick up barbecue, you can also pick up a couple of beers to go with it. If you pick up a fancy dinner from an Italian restaurant, you can pick up a bottle of wine to go with it. 2 reasons, 2 rationales. It's customer convenience, again, because our industry has evolved, this industry has evolved, more online ordering, more takeout. Even before the pandemic, it was evolving to include this. It's also to help these restaurants. Many of them are suffering greatly. A lot of them have gone out of business. And those that remain, those that survived the pandemic, it will take 2+ years for them to make up the lost income during the pandemic. So it provides, again, more paths to viability for small business during COVID. Baltimore County has this ability now, and there is a statewide bill with a similar intent. If the statewide bill passes, we would be able to withdraw the Howard County bill if we felt that was the right thing to do. And so we want to make sure that we're helping the small businesses as much as we possibly can we've had no problem with this provision during the pandemic. And with that, questions?
So we need a motion to move forward with discussion.
Move approval of Bill
Second.
421.
Okay, so we've motioned by Delegate Watson, second by Senator Guzzoni. Discussion by the delegation. I see Delegate Novotny's blue hand is up. Go ahead.
Yes, Senator, thank you so much. Delegate Watson, how does this interact with current DUI open container laws, and does it have any effect on that or change how we enforce those laws?
It does not have any effect on that, Delegate Novotny, but I did neglect to mention that we do have an amendment, if that could be put on the screen. I know the amendment was emailed out, but essentially it changes, if you all are looking at the bill on page 2. And Chairman Lamb, do we have the ability to post that online on the screen?
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
So
Abby, do you have it
Dara-
offhand?
Dara should be able to share his screen to pull that up.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't think I have screen sharing ability. Good.
Mhm. It says that it's disabled currently.
Okay. Could he read the, could he?
I'm
explain-
sorry. I'm sorry. Aaron, are you able to, there you go. You should be able to do it now, Dara.
Good.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the amendment changes that on page 3 in line 1, after purchased, we would insert prepared, and in the same line strike or alcohol, so that 23902C2 would now read beer, wine, and liquor for off-premises consumption only to a person who has purchased prepared food from the licensed premises.
Thank you. The amendment simply clarifies that you have to have prepared food, and it struck alcohol because it was irrelevant. This bill was modeled after another, I believe, the Howard County bill by our drafter. I mean, the Baltimore County bill.
Move the amendment.
Second.
Okay, so we have Senator Guzzoni moved the amendment, Delegate Watson seconded it. No questions that I see on the amendment. Abby, do you want to take the roll on the amendment? This is the amendment that we were seeing before you.
Yes, the roll to act on the amendment. Senator Lamb,
Yes.
Senator Guzon, Senator Guzon,
Yes.
Senator Hester,
Yes.
Delegate Feldmark,
Yes.
Delegate Atterbury,
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol, Delegate Ebersol,
Yes. Yes.
Delegate Hill,
Yes.
Delegate Kittleman,
Yes.
Delegate Novotny,
Yes.
Delegate Pendergrass, Delegate Terrassa,
Yes.
and Delegate Watson.
Yes.
So it's 8 delegates with 1 absent and 3 senators, so that motion passes.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion on the bill? I see no blue hands up. I'm just scrolling through the actual images. I don't see any other physical hands up, so it doesn't look like there are.
Delegate Novotny has his hand up.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
you still have your blue hand up. Go ahead. I wasn't sure if that was the last, the prior question. Go ahead.
Sorry, I put my hand down for the amendment and then put it back up. Yeah, I appreciate the answer, Delegate Watson. So has it been cleared by anyone in law enforcement to say if there's an open container with a piece of tape or however they stop the container in violation of an open container law?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that because of David Youngman's cough.
I'm sorry.
David. No, so the question is, I know you said it does not affect, but I guess my question to you is, do we know if I'm driving home from a local establishment with what would look like today an open container, I would not be considered in violation of an open container?
The alcohol is not provided in an open container. Mr. Milani, are you on the line here? Can you explain how it works in your county?
What under the executive order, what most of the liquor boards have talked about this, and there was a lot of discussion, and it has to be sealed so that if you were to be pulled over and it was unsealed, then it becomes an open container. No different than if you opened a beer going down the road. If you unseal it, it's open.
So, yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Youngman.
Go ahead.
This is something that, this is probably the thing that we've struggled with the most, and we actually went back and revised our original rules to deal with this, because we had such an uneven playing field. I can tell you from my perspective as chair of the liquor board, I want us to continue to require that these be closed containers. There are plastic closed containers that you can buy. They're very formal. You fill them, you twist them, and then they sort of lock. I don't know if they're overly, cost prohibitive. As simple as I got a carry out cup of wine somewhere in Annapolis this year in a carry out cup, but it had a little round sticker stuck over the straw hole. But however we define closed container, at the local level, we're going to still want them to be considered to be closed containers, because I don't want to create a situation where somebody picks up carry out and they throw back their orange crush on the way home. So, or as Reed said, create a situation with law enforcement where you have 2 to-go cups in a tray. The restaurant has stuck the straw in there for you, and now you're sitting there trying to debate whether or not you're really drinking them or not. It just, but there's a lot of options, folks, on how to define a closed container. And I think there's ways to do it that won't be overly burdensome on the businesses. And it sounds like Jack's got some ideas already, so.
Okay. Any other, I see Delegate Mott, you still have your hand up. Nope, you're done. Okay. All right, so seeing no further.
I have my hand up. I can't, my Zoom is not working. I'm
All
trying
right,
to.
go ahead, Delegate Hill.
All right, so on page 2 to 3, line 22 going through, on page 3, it says not more than a single serving in each container.
That's affected by the amendment. Are you,
The amendment,
Mr.
I saw the amendment, I couldn't plug it in. So it changed, took out the word alcohol and it said something else.
Is our drafter
So
on the line? Because we had this conversation yesterday, Delegate Hill. Hang on one second, please.
I'm here.
Daria, can you please read how the bill, how the line starting at the bottom of line 22 on page 2, number 2, how that now reads?
Yes, and so it's the most recent version of the bill, not including the amendment or including the proposed amendment.
Including it.
With the amendment.
So it would now read that beer, wine, and liquor for off-premises consumption only to a person who has purchased prepared food from the licensed premises.
Got it. Okay. So you can buy the meal and the whole bottle of wine, which would not be opened in the car, so would not present as an open container.
Yes.
And you can buy, so basically you're also talking about packaged liquors. In other words, you can't buy a cocktail because that would be an open container issue.
You could buy a cocktail if it was in a container, a sealed container.
A pre-sealed container, not a lid, as Councilman Youngman was saying, not just a lidded something with a margarita in it.
Again, it would be up to the
Frozen,
local.
because we do allow for frozen liquor, right? We do allow for that. So could that be a lollipop of margarita? All right, whatever. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I don't see any virtual hands or physical hands anymore. We have a motion that's been put on the table and properly seconded. Abby, do you want to go ahead and call the roll?
Just for clarification, who motioned and who seconded?
I believe that was originally Delegate Watson motion, Senator Gazzoni seconded.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, just making sure I had it correctly.
And this
All
is
right.
on the bill. Go ahead.
Bill is amended.
Bill as amended. Sorry, that's right.
All right, Senator Lamb,
Yes.
Senator Gazon,
Yes.
Senator Hester,
Yes.
Delegate Feldmark,
Yes.
Delegate Atterbury,
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol,
Spacebar didn't work that time. Yes.
Delegate Hill,
Yes.
Delegate Kittleman,
Yes.
Delegate Novotny,
Although I'm a big supporter, I think there's a lot to be desired with how we're going to enforce this, and I would hate to put our citizens at risk of getting DUIs. I will vote no.
Delegate Pendergrass, Delegate Tarasa,
Yes.
Delegate Watson.
Yes.
So we have 7 yeses, 1 no, and 1 absent from the delegates, and 3 yeses from the Senate.
Okay, thank you, Abby. That motion passes. Next on the agenda, we have Howard County 2-21. This is alcohol, Class A alcoholic beverage licenses, quota by election district. This is Senator Gazzoni's bill. Do you want to briefly introduce it, Senator?
Sure. So we had this last year. We really didn't put any effort into it. I think this is a pretty simple bill at its basics. We already have a requirement in our law that says that you can't, that you get 4,000, one license, I apologize, one license for 4,000 residents. That's the way the law is right now. All this is trying to say is that we ought to put those licenses where there's population. And that's it. There's not much to it. It's supported by the association. I mean, part of this, in my mind, is about ensuring sort of a healthy distribution across the county where it should be. We don't want places that get too. There are parts of the county that could easily get cluttered with additional liquor shops, and I don't think that's healthy for us. I don't think that's what we want in the long run, and I think that's all there is to it.
Okay, thank you. So to follow just proper procedures and rules,
So
we
moved.
would need a. Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second to be able to
Second.
discuss this further? All right, so Delegate Ebersol seconded. So it's been motioned and seconded. We can open up for discussion now. Further questions? I saw, why don't we go with, I saw Delegate Tarasa first, Delegate Hill, Delegate Ebersol, and then Delegate Novotny. Delegate Ebersol, Delegate Tarasa first.
So what keeps us from concentrating the liquor stores then in the east or in the like in the Route 1 corridor or in Columbia, for example?
At this point, nothing other than, so as members here who have already served on a liquor board like myself know that there is a criteria in the process that is about need, right? If there's an expression of community need. So theoretically, if that was used pretty tightly, there would be, this bill may not be necessary. But the reality is, at least from my serving on the liquor board, and of course it can change from board to board, but I think broadly speaking, the law allows for an interpretation where one citizen can come in and say, yeah, that's a convenience for me. I'd like it in my neighborhood. That's enough to give the board something to hang their hat on to allow something to move forward. It's, you know, that's the nature of how it works.
Mr. Milani, did you have an answer to that question, the response to that question? Is that why you're raising your hand?
I did actually. I think if you were to look at the chart that we did, and actually I want to thank Councilman Youngman and Cindy Scowney for putting that together. They had the election districts with how many licenses, and then we did a mock-up chart of what it would look like. So that would kind of give you an idea. Now, I will tell you that some of the licenses that we are counting now are probably in shopping centers over 200,000 square feet. So they would not count. But just as a point of reference, this would guard against your concern, delegate, and it would also allow that if you put a large retail center, that license would be available if they prove need and accommodation.
Okay.
Well, what problem is this trying to solve?
How they would all be clustered in one area. You know, this breaks it down by the election districts so that each election district, rather than a county-wide limit, each election district based upon that election district's population would have a limit. So you're just honing it down to the actual locations as opposed to countywide.
Okay, thank you.
So I put the order of the questions in the chat box. So after Delegate Raza is now Delegate Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So two things. The document that Mr. Milani was referencing, is that available? I'm having a problem pulling some things up here, so I'd appreciate if you could send that around, put it in the chat or something. And the second question is, I'd like staff to please remind me of where we went with this bill last year. Did we take a vote? Was it voted up or down? Was it open for discussion? I don't remember where we left this bill, and this may be the second or third year we've had this bill.
I think this was the second year, and I think we didn't have time to take a vote on this bill, but Dara,
we finished all our delegation didn't end early last year. We were done with our delegation meetings.
Okay, Dara, do you remember?
Senator Lamb, I believe you are correct. I cannot see any record of a vote on this. I believe it was 38-20 last year. I don't think it was.
Yeah, it came in at the end. There was no vote last year.
Thank you.
Okay, Delegate Ebersol.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My mathematical mind is brewing here, and I'm curious if this 4,000 limit means you have to get over it and then to be allowed to offer a license, and then you have to get to the next 4,000 threshold before another license may be offered. Because if you segment, you could actually end up with fewer licenses being able to be offered, depending on how they were divided up. We had 100,000 people. That would verify 25,000 licenses across the county. I know we have more than that, but it's a good example. But if there were 4 election districts of 25,000 each, that would only allow 6 in each of those, which would be 24 or 1 less. So I'm curious if, first of all, if it rounds, then fine, then I think it doesn't matter much anymore. But if it does truncate down, this could have the effect of reducing. And so answer the question, and I'm a little concerned.
Lonnie, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, no, it absolutely creates a limit of, I'll give you an example. First election district, 46,755 for a limit of 11.69. So you would have to get to the next number. And this is 4,000 is a pretty standard number of the counties that use this formula. You know, it's obviously less for the restaurants, but currently I'm showing that there's a limit of a 78.12 countywide. You have 61, and I'm going to guess that there's a handful of those that are going to be exceptions. So let's just say, for argument's sake, 55. So right now you would have the ability to add 22 licenses. So without this chart or without this bill, you know, they could go into one district. Nothing stops it from going into one district. Now, obviously, I don't think it would all go there because, you know, the board's not going to do that. But, you know, this is a bill that if you're going to do it, you need to do it before you get too far down the road. I mean, I'll give you a prime example of Baltimore City, where they've actually used some zoning trying to eliminate over 100 licenses. So I don't know that we'll ever have that growth, but if you're going to do it, this is the time to change it from countywide to election district.
Okay. Next, we have Delegate Novotny.
Thanks, Senator. Along those lines with the election districts and the 4,000 number, do we have a generic, or is it part of the map you discussed before, a generic distribution of that? AKA, you know, 9A is pretty rural in most areas, and I don't know if we have that 4,000 threshold or how many we have in that area.
If I may, Senator Lamb, respond.
You have to proceed. Thanks.
Delegate, actually, I live in that district, so I know it very well. But what it is in the fourth election, remember, we're talking election districts, not legislative districts, because the election districts never change. There is a call, you have 14,030 people, and it calls for 3.51, and you currently have 3. And I can assure you none of those will be exceptions, because you and I both know there's no center out here that's probably over 100,000.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So then maybe a question back to the bill sponsor also. Why was the discussion split up between having, again, you know, we have a lot of freestanding liquor stores out in our area, between having a 200,000 square foot shopping complex? How did that decision get made?
I think it was just an accommodation in the discussion earlier on to say that liquor stores are largely on strip centers sort of a requirement to make that strip center work, and otherwise you'd be stopping the center from ever happening, because without that particular accommodation it would never work.
I don't understand. That doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. Well, my mic was off.
Mr. Malani.
Yeah, basically that's taken from other jurisdictions, because if you were in an area that maybe didn't have a license available and they were going to develop a large retail center of 200,000 or greater, then you provide them with the exception, because that's something that's not just supported by the immediate population. That would be more of a destination. So they make the exception available, but remember, they still have to go before the board and present that there is a need for that license. So it's a little check and balance built in.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Delegate Feldmark, and then followed by Delegate Kittleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess my question is sort of in line with some of the previous questions. I'm not always the biggest free market cheerleader, and I know that Councilman Youngman is going to enjoy the irony of this question. But I mean, when you talk about trying to make sure that the stores are located where the population is located, shouldn't market forces sort of make that happen? I mean, I guess this gets back to the sort of like, how does this problem really exist? And are people opening liquor stores where there's not the population to support them.
Senator Lamb, can I respond?
Yes, go ahead.
Delegate, I think what you have to remember is that, this is an industry that before we even open, we have to have a hearing. We have to prove there's a need for the license. It's highly regulated, and I think for good reason. I think when you look at this bill makes sense to us. Remember, I'm with the state. I happen to live in Howard County, so I took a particular interest in it. But you have a countywide limit. So if you have a countywide limit, why would you not want to then make sure that it goes to where the population is? And you have your safeguard of the exception. Now, free market's a great phrase, but anyone who's in my industry, we realize we're not free market, and we probably should never be free market because, bad things happen when you have a lot of stores concentrated in one area. I think if you would look at, Bloomberg has a study from their alcohol policy where that's what created the situation where Baltimore is reducing licenses, because they can show you the things that happen when there is a high concentration.
Right, but I guess the reason I'm struggling with this, and this kind of goes to that point, is to the extent that I am familiar with problems with sort of, oversaturation of market with liquor stores where there are too many liquor stores in a particular area. I don't have solid data for this. This is just an impression, so I could be wrong, but it seems like those problems are usually in densely populated areas. And so I'm not sure that I don't see how this measure prevents that problem. It seems like this is providing more, if anything, it would be our more populated areas would have the ability to have additional licenses, right? And so I'm not sure I see that. And I know I see Senator Gazzoni shaking his head. I feel like I'm missing a piece. I don't quite understand.
The only thing I would respond is that absolutely, the licenses are going to go where the population is, and that's what this chart does, is it makes sure of that. And I think from a resident standpoint, putting my other hat on, I like this because you currently have a countywide limit, but there's no assurances that they're going to end up in the right places. I mean, I'm going to give you one example, and I hope I'm not offending anyone that was on the board previously, but there was a decision a few years ago, those of you who are familiar with Play It Again Sports over there at Route 40 by 29, there was a store that was granted, against tremendous neighborhood opposition. And we all just looked at it and shook our heads in the industry. And sure enough, after multiple violations of both state and local, they went out of business. Now, some people might have been surprised, but no one in the industry was surprised. There were just too many stores in that area. So it wasn't going to work. So the violations were a result of him selling to minors and moving product from other stores. He had to buy product from other stores. And that's the kind of things that happen when you go and put too many in one licenses in an area. And I'm not saying you're at that point in Howard County, but having been involved in Baltimore County for 32 years, they have similar charts both on and off. And the only thing they did wrong is they waited too long. So they had areas that they could never really fix it. And that's all. If you're gonna do it soon before it becomes a problem. And you already have the countywide limit. So this is not a big stretch putting them into the election districts.
Okay. We have Go ahead, Senator Gazzoni, your response.
Well, I was trying to get sort of to the math of it again. Maybe Delegate Ebersol correct me when I say this, but so to your point, Delegate Feldmark, under this law, you would only have one store for every 4,000 in a populated area. But under existing law, you could take the population from across the county. And that ends up theoretically could go into a more densely populated area. So it's even more added into it.
I see that point, and I guess maybe that's where if we look at the map, I mean, I know the numbers we have right now are not quite right because we haven't been able to exclude the shopping center stores. But I guess I want to see, I understand your point about setting up some barriers so you don't have an over concentration in one area. But from the chart, it looked like the remaining capacity was mostly in the more populated areas of the county anyway. So I'm not sure I see that playing out. But again, it's hard to know for sure because the numbers we have include the liquor stores in the large shopping centers.
Okay. We have Delegate Kittleman followed by Senator Hester.
Thank you. Couple of things. Jack, I think your story about where was it, where the liquor store was allowed to proceed actually is a strong supporter of the free market. It worked. And that of course is what I would prefer. Thank you. Jessica, I appreciated your comments on that. I have a question about election district, and maybe I should know this, but because I think that you also said there are at least 3 different districts, congressional, councilmatic delegation. Is there such a thing as election district that's unique to the entire county?
Yes.
Doesn't follow? That's interesting.
You have 6 of them. Actually, if you get back in your delegation room this year, it's on the wall. You probably never noticed it. Yes.
I'll have to look at that. The next thing I wanted to say is, please don't ever compare us to Baltimore City. And the final thing is, I am concerned that this bill is going to disadvantage our Western area, because when you take 4,000 people out in the Western area, you're spread out, all over, which means people out in the Western area are going to have to drive, because we can't have more liquor stores closer to where we live. We will have to drive a great deal further. And I just think that should be taken into account, a geographical area. That may be why, whatever the market says, but it definitely would disadvantage I guess we're in the 5th councilmatic district or out here. Unless I'm misunderstanding it, but that's my question.
Actually, we're in the 4th election district. I'm in Glenwood. I'm in the 4th. And
but you understand my point about
absolutely. And we have 3 stores out here that have been out here, and from my point, I can go to Glenwood, I can go over to the roundabout. I mean, I think when we move to the west, or those of us who've been here for a while, we drive to the grocery store. There's nothing right here for us. So I think I understand what you're saying, but eventually I think when the population updates, you'll have room for a 4th store. But I can't remember the last time. I mean, I've been here 20 some years. I can't remember the last time there was an application out this way, even to put another store, because there's not enough people here to support another one.
Yeah, I guess.
Did I miss one? I mean, I'm trying to think. I can't recall any applications. Maybe the Councilman Youngman can help me.
I'm lucky. I live in if I bought alcohol, we have a store right up in the Glenelg Circle. Nice. Liquor stores are nicer that they are among the few stores that people actually own, mom and pop kind of thing. But no, if there aren't applications, that's fine. But again, I guess I'm just relying on the free market as opposed to regulation. So thank you.
Senator Hester. Oh, sorry. No, yeah, go ahead. And then we have a few that want a second bite of the apple, I guess.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really sorry, but I did not have access to the chart that's been mentioned, and I'm still having a little trouble finding it on the drive. And it's hard because I'm a numbers person, so I'd really like to see the chart. But basically, the questions that I'd want to have answered, is seeing where the election districts are, knowing how many people are in each election district, and then knowing how many permits there are currently and how that would change. It's just with all the math kind of flying around, it's hard to tell what the actual impact of this on the ground, might be. And I also thought I heard some discussion about whether this would raise the total number of licenses. So I'm sorry, I'm just kind of confused.
Well, just to let, nothing goes away. There's not a district here that's over, so nothing goes away. I guess we need to get those. I thought those charts had gone out. We'll make sure they go out, but it's it would give you a much better understanding looking at the charts.
Thank you very much. I look forward to looking at it.
Yeah, we'll get those charts out. So second bite at the apple. I assume Delegate Hill, you had your hand up. That wasn't continuation from before, right? And then I also saw Delegate Terraza and then followed by Delegate Feldmar in that order. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So actually what I wanted to do was to ask that we hold this, or continue the discussion, but hold the vote over or table until the next meeting, because and be happy to talk with Mr. Malani again. I know we spoke briefly about it, or even if the sponsor had time, but I really think I get on the micro level the value of not concentrating establishments in certain neighborhoods or corridors, et cetera. I'm not really seeing how this does that. That's my problem. I don't understand the exception for certain sized, malls, as Delegate Novotny asked. We got an answer. I didn't explain it to me. I don't know if that doesn't count, because all the liquor stores I see are in strip malls or they're in the mall. So I'm not understanding the details of how this gets to the problem that I appreciate. And so I guess that's not a specific question, except if Mr. Malani will meet with me at some point to go over those issues, I'd appreciate it. And again, it might be over to not vote on it today. So I'll make that motion.
Okay, why don't we finish the discussion, then we can hold it at the end. I know Delegate Watson actually didn't have her first bite at the apple. So, and also just to note, the charts did go out and they are on the Google Drive too. So you should be able to access the election district charts. Let me insert Delegate Watson in here, and then we'll continue with the order of Delegate Terraza and Delegate Feldmar.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to comment that I see this as an evolution of our county's growth, and the licenses would mirror the population, which is really connected to the zoning. And as we know, the zoning in the West is going to allow for far fewer retail businesses than in the rest of the county. So it seems to me that this bill makes some sense, and we should look at it as a way of keeping up with how our growth has changed in Howard County. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Delegate Watson. We have Delegate Terraza and then Delegate Feldmar.
So to the point about population, I guess it would make sense more to me, and I'm wondering if it had been considered to you whether to use councilmanic districts, which are more, they've been adjusted for population. I see Senator Gazzoni shaking his head. I'm sure he has an answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, they change.
Change.
So it would be completely confusing for business owners.
Right, but you could freeze them. I mean, you could say councilmanic districts as of the date that it passed. They're much better distributed than these, which are so different. I mean, 14,000 in one and 98,000 in another, whereas the councilmanic districts have been adjusted for population and are reasonably equal. It's something that I think would make more sense from my perspective. I still am not sure I understand how this quite meets the need that, I mean, to Delegate Feldmark's point, I understand the concern, but I'm not sure how this quite meets the need. But I think I would feel more comfortable if they were councilmanic districts, even if they were councilmanic districts as of 2020 or what have you.
Okay, Delegate Feldmark.
Thank you. And this is my second bite at the apple, but it's actually a different apple. This question is geared towards the county folks. I just want to understand sort of how the implementation of this would work and how it would change the liquor board's operations and you know, for the staff administering it. You know, we had a challenge getting this data because election district isn't tracked on you know, liquor license applications. I guess they would have to start tracking election district, and we've still had, I think, a hard time teasing out the shopping center exclusions, right? So there would have to be a way to track that also. What else would change in terms of how this would actually be implemented?
I'm gonna just kind of open that question up to Jamar or Robin or Ann, whoever has anything that they'd like to offer as far as an answer before I speak. Because I honestly don't know how it would change. You know, if we only have one license left to give in an election district, is the Alcohol Beverage Hearing Board going to be tougher on the criteria? Are they going to raise the bar knowing it's the last one to give, where we normally haven't had to take that into account because we haven't been pushing up against our limit? You know, are we going to get into discussions about the free market and whether or not this area even needs another liquor store? You might have, if you have the same amount of liquor stores in the rural west as you have in, let's say, election district 1, they might be smaller because your market's smaller, but they've still popped up because you're trying to save people the drive distance, which you guys are only talking about population, you're not talking about drive time. So I know I said I wanted anybody else. I put everybody on the spot, so I bought you some time. Jamar, Ann, Robbins, anybody have anything to add?
I guess I would just add that, yeah, I think the administrator, I guess in cooperation with the Office of Law, there had to be some kind of tracking when the applications come to determine, you know, whether this proposed liquor store will be, you know, what election district it's in, what's, you know, if there's any spots left. So I think, you know, that would probably add some time into, I guess, the review process as to whether there can be any more allowed. There certainly is, as Mr. Malani mentioned, that there certainly is the criteria when it does get before the board that, you know, a need, commonality, there's certain things that certainly the board looks at, but there would definitely have to be some kind of tool if one's not already there as to, you know, what election district this business is in and whether there's any spots left. So.
Okay, I see Senator Hester has her physical hand up, and then Delegate Watson, do you still have your hand up, the blue hand, or is that, no, you're taking that down. Okay, all right, Senator Hester, go ahead.
So I now have access to the drive. Thank you very much. But it's, does this bill actually raise the limit on the cap of the liquor licenses then? No. So the fact that we've got 61 existing and the limit 78, that means that either way, we would still have, you know, the difference between those two that are outstanding.
For the record, the new limit would be 75. Okay, it goes down by 3 because of the segmentation, but I don't think that's significant. if you total up everything in the existing column in districts 1 through 6, that number is 75 as opposed to 78.
Until we get the
Right.
new census data.
Right, but even so, mathematically, it would quite often be a few less. Sorry, bad English there.
Okay, but it does look like this effectively closes District 3, that you get one more in District 3 and no more in District 4. Is that correct?
Yes. So none of those are exceptions.
Okay. But it seems like there should be a balance then between kind of population and geographic area.
So the only thing I would do is maybe we could ask the board, when was the last application that was put in election district 4? Because I can't remember it.
So you're willing to say that nobody ever can open another liquor store in section 4?
I would say that if there was additional population, or I hate to say it, we end up getting a 200,000 square feet center, which personally I'd rather drive than get that, but that's me.
No, I'm with you on that one. It just seems like slightly unfair.
Senator, I think if there was a need or there was a desire, I'm just surprised we haven't seen applications.
But you're preventing any future need unless people rapidly multiply in District 4. And I'm happy with 2 kids so far.
Well, I think that in the areas that use these, this is how it's worked, and that's what they did, because normally where you don't have as much population, you don't have people really looking to put stores out there because, quite honestly, there's just not enough population.
But the question, maybe it's a philosophical one. Should you make it illegal, or should you at least give them the market opportunity if they want to open a distillery or something, out there?
Well, that's a different animal. They're not part of this, but I would tell you, from being in this business for 36 years, I'm used to being regulated. There's a lot of stuff I'd like to change, but the regulators are going to have it.
And one more question though, if you're gonna allow, like in one of these other districts, like District 2, if you're going to go from 12 to 16, what's to prevent all 4 of those from being in the same block?
Hopefully the liquor board.
Okay.
So I will see a last hand from Delegate Hill, and then we can entertain the prior request. Go ahead, Delegate Hill. Go ahead, Delegate Hill. You're on mute. You're still muted. Looks like she
Thank you.
trying to request technical. Okay.
I'm flipping around over there. Anyway, so let me ask this question. In Baltimore County, when the thing's tied up, the way that the process goes is you can actually sell your license if you're closing to someone else. Does this set up a situation where, let's say in voting district 4, they're maxed out, that they have to wait for one business to go out of business? And does that set up a bidding process? Can they sell? I mean, is this a preamble for some kind of system, or is it not? Is there nothing stated here, right? So, I mean, for me, I'd be fine with they go out of business, so there's now one available, but there ought not to be a bid and a political process where folks who know folks can get that license. So I'd just like to know if this is setting us up to that kind of system.
In Baltimore County, the restaurant licenses have been sold and are sold. The on or the off premise don't usually get sold outside of the normal transfer of business. And most of the time when you're buying that business, especially if you're buying an existing business, the value is determined by, your sales.
So there's nothing in this that would prevent us from saying, let's say again, District 4 is all maxed out. Terry's Wine and Liquor goes out of business, it reverts back to the county, and it's just available for the next applicant without sale, without price, right?
Yes.
There's nothing that prevents us from having a straightforward, honest system that when a license becomes available, it just goes through the same process as if it,
The
as we are
board
now.
would accept an application, the normal process of applying.
All right, thank you, thank you.
All right, so why don't we go ahead and honor
Can I do one thing real quick?
Yeah,
Because-
Senator Gazan, go ahead.
Yeah, just because I want it on the table so I don't forget about it next time. There is an amendment. It's a grandfathering. I think it affects one business, just that they didn't, I think so it doesn't harm them because they're already in the process. We can get you more details on it if it matters, but I just want it on the table so we don't forget about it next time.
Okay.
And
Sounds
Mr.
good.
Chair, I would be happy if anyone wants to have a separate meeting.
Yeah, I see that.
Before.
I see that in the chat. So I think Delegate Hill and Delegate Novotny and I think Senator Hester has indicated that she would like to be included in that too. So if you can follow up with them, that would be great.
So can I just move that amendment and just get it?
Yeah.
We'll need a second.
Second.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay.
We can hold the whole thing now.
Okay. So we'd have request to hold. Why don't we hold this until next week? All right. Doug Feldmer, it's all yours.
Thank you. Okay, so we are moving on to legislative bond initiatives, and Senator Lamb was much more forgiving than I intend to be in terms of the multiple ways that folks are seeking to be recognized. As I said at the beginning of the meeting, from my perspective, it would be very helpful if folks simply put in the chat question, comment, call on me, whatever, just so that we have a clear queue. The problem with the hand raising function, we saw a couple times, there's sometimes a question of if people forgot to put their hand down or if they've raised it again. And unless I see the hand actually coming on, it's hard to tell the order in which hands were raised. So please, if you want to participate, go ahead and just give me a one-word indication in the chat, and that will help me keep the queue in order.
Chair Feldmark, this is
Yes.
David. The Howard County Liquor Delegation is going to disconnect.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for joining
As
us.
riveting as the
for
bond
your
bills sound.
answers.
Thank you all. It was great seeing you. Thanks for getting our input on everything. Be nice to read. It's first day.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Okay, for the legislative bond initiatives, I would like to entertain these as a consent agenda. We do have representatives from the administration. If there are questions on any of the administration requested initiatives, if there are questions on any that we don't have someone to speak to, we can hold it over.
Move all the bills on consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, thank you. So Senator Gazzoni moved and
Looks like Delegate
seconded.
Kittleman
Any
has a,
discussion?
No,
Oh,
I
sorry.
want to, I don't agree. Well, you can override me, but I don't agree with that at all. There are 20 bills we're looking at. I think it's important to.
You can separate any bill as part of the procedure. If you want to
Right,
still
so
separate
I
it,
can't
separate.
look at them all at the same time on a computer.
Well,
So
And we spent almost 2 hours on 4 alcohol bills. These are substantive expenses, and to give them short shrift like that, really, really, I find untenable.
So I think anyone can ask to have any items pulled off the consent agenda for individual discussion.
My request is to have each one brought up. I don't care if you just want to do a raise hand, yes or no, but I think it would be important to show that we actually looked at these things and
So I'm going to,
that changes people's minds, like on the last bill.
Point of order,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Point of order, yes?
We have a motion for consent calendar and a second on the floor here already for this.
Well, we're discussing it.
Yes.
Right, but you tried to insert that you would not like us, that you would like us to remove it or that vote in a different way. We first have to move if we have a consent calendar, then we can separate them out, I believe.
No, we can move. I would prefer not to have a consent calendar on our delegate bills.
Okay. So I believe, and I'm going to ask our delegation council to help us out here. We have a motion and a second for a consent calendar. I believe what we're hearing from Delegate Kittleman is that when we vote on that motion, she would be voting against it. Can you help us out procedurally, Dara?
I'm just trying to check here. Unfortunately, I'm not absolutely certain on what the procedure is. So, I mean,
I think we can vote on the motion to move forward or not, right? But Senator Gazzoni, go ahead.
Yeah, can I,
Sorry.
look, I just assumed that would be an easy thing. I reject Delegate Kittleman's suggestion that we haven't reviewed these because I have. I have taken the time to look at them and I'm ready to vote for them. We also had a public hearing on that, so I reject that concept. However, I believe as a courtesy, I believe that if that is what Delegate Kittleman requires, and she wants to look at every one, I'm willing to do that because I believe in that courtesy. And I would have allowed for the separation of every bill. But again, I reject the idea that we have not reviewed them because I have.
Well, good for
I am
you.
part of we.
Well, before we go any
Sorry,
further,
I
I'm
was
going to
just taken
recognize
aback.
Delegate Watson, who has asked in the chat to.
Thank you, Chairwoman. First of all, if we're going to be using the chat to raise our hands, let's all do that instead of 3 different ways because I just think it's getting confusing. And if you have a question, you can just put it in the chat. Second, my question about all of the bills, just in general, as a clarifying question was, we received a memo recently, like this morning, maybe from Legislative Services or from someone that had a list of criteria. And I'm not clear that all of these meet that criteria. So that was my question.
May I just ask a question? I was in a.
Hang on, I'd like to get back to Dara just for
Is this the first time we
clarification.
have? Is this the first time we've ever used the consent calendar feature? Seems to me, it just took me aback.
I see some heads
Done that
shaking.
before.
Dara, can you clarify for us on the procedure here?
I'm still looking. Apologies. I have messaged someone. I'm sorry, Delegate Watson, you said that you had received a memo this morning.
Yes, or maybe it was yesterday, but it was some direction about our LBIs from, I thought, from somewhere. Did anybody else get the memo? Okay, I'll find the memo.
I have not seen the memo.
I'll find the while you all discuss the next step. Okay, I have found it. Just hang on. So it was to the Maryland House of Delegates and the Senate. Oh, it was Tuesday at 2:20 p.m. It's from the presiding officers. So it's just a memo from the presiding officers with a lot of eligibility requirements. And maybe they're the same as they always are. I just wasn't sure if they were different for some reason this year because of the pandemic. And if they were, did all the projects meet them?
Okay, it looks like the chair of B&T believes there are not any changes, if I interpreted the head shake correctly.
Is that right?
Is that
Consequence.
okay?
I'm sorry, I
you.
missed his answer. What was his answer?
I don't believe anything of consequence has changed. They are guidelines that are presented every year.
Okay. And next up, we
I'm going to turn it back on and see, but
next up we have Delegate Terrassa.
I'm on my phone right now.
I
Delegate
just,
Hill, I think you might want to mute.
yeah, we can hear you now. Thank you. I agree with Senator Gazzoni. I did prepare, I read through these, but I frankly think Delegate Kittleman's request was basically to take each one of these off the consent agenda. And I just think we should move forward with that. And I'm happy, I think it makes sense to give her the courtesy of that, and we should just move forward and just bring up each bill. I agree with him.
Okay. I appreciate that courtesy, and I heard from Senator Gazzoni as well. Is anyone interested in withdrawing a motion that had previously been made?
I'm happy to withdraw it.
Okay.
I still believe we could move forward with it, but I believe in the courtesy.
Thank you. Okay, then we will move forward with HOCO 1621. This was a request from Humanum. And I believe Senator Lamb, that may have come through you. I don't know if you want to speak to that.
If for sake of time, I think we've had this hearing already with the public hearing, so I think it's in the drive.
Did you want to make
Is
a
it
motion on
appropriate
it?
to move favorable at this point, Madam?
Yeah, I'll move favorable.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, Abby, can you please call the vote on
Senator
HOCO
Lamb,
1621?
Yes.
Senator Gazzoni,
Yes.
Senator Hester,
Yes.
Delegate Feldmark,
Yes.
Delegate Atterbury,
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol,
Yes.
Delegate Hill,
Yes.
Delegate Kittleman,
Yes.
Delegate Novotny,
No.
Delegate Pendergrass, Delegate Terrassa,
Yes.
Delegate Watson.
Yes.
So we have 1 no, 7 yeses, and 1 absent from the delegates, and 3 favorable from the senators. Passes.
Just to clarify, I think that was actually Senator Gazzoni's the origin of this one, but go ahead.
Oh, I apologize.
It's okay. I see Delegate Hill waving her hand. I don't know if that's a reflection from the window or if that's.
No, that's
yeah,
me.
go ahead. All right, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just, I have a request going forward. There are people watching this who weren't at the public hearing, who haven't seen the document. We have a new member. I would appreciate it as we go through each one, someone could give a brief, one-line summary as the chair has requested. It would be very helpful. Thank you.
So, and just to remind members and for the benefit of folks who are watching from the public, if you have a copy of the agenda, these items are all hyperlinked to the Legislative Bond Initiative request form where you can see all the details. Those forms are all posted on the delegation page of the county website as well. So if folks want to follow along, those are available. So next up, we have HOCO 1721, Patuxent Commons. I'm going to move approval. This is $500,000 to support the development of a mixed income and disability-friendly residential community that the Autism Society of Howard County has been working on for quite some time. So I move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Abby, can you please call the vote?
The motion on 1721, Senator Lamb,
Yes.
Senator Gazzoni,
So I'm voting yes, but I would like, Madam Chair, I need to get to a budget meeting. So I'm going to ask that I be recorded in the positive for all the bills as they move forward. And my vote is yes on this and the ongoing ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and Senator Hester,
Yes.
Delegate Feldmark,
Yes.
Delegate Atterbury,
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol,
Yes.
Delegate Hill,
Yes.
Delegate Kittleman,
Yes.
Delegate Novotny,
No.
Delegate Pendergrass, Delegate Tarasa,
Yes.
and Delegate Watson.
Yes.
The motion passes with 7 yeses from the delegates and 3 yeses from the senators.
Okay, thank you. And we are, I know Senator Gazzoni had to leave for an 11 o'clock. I did say at the beginning that we were going to allow up to 2 hours for our delegation meeting. So I do think we should go ahead and plan to continue the rest of these items to our agenda for next Wednesday at 9 a.m. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move that
Move to
we,
adjourn.
Second. Could I just thank everybody for the courtesy? I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, we will see you all next week. Thank you.
Delegate.